I originally started doing my physics major when I was in college because I wanted to actually be in the FBI. I thought I wanted to be, secret agent, James Bond, whatever. To make that jump, it actually takes consistency. I would say that, the athletes that I have to hold back, the ones that I have to tell, that I have to throttle down, are usually the ones that are more inclined to make those next steps versus the ones that I have to push. I have a good friend who says you can't want it more than they can, or you can't want it more than they do. And it's true as ever. I mean, I can usually pick out a kid pretty quick who's going to make it, who's not. And it's the kid that just is harassing me about getting in and getting work done. When it comes to, winning a race, you've got you, right? But when it comes to saving your own life, I mean, that's a whole different ballgame, right? So you can't have a bad day on that day. Otherwise, there won't be a tomorrow. So, yeah, I mean, the preparations, it's very necessary.
Welcome. Today, my guest is Nick Vinson. In today's episode, we dive into Nick's vast experience in his role as one of the managing partners at Elite Performance to understand how he cultivates top performance in elite athletes, first responders, and adults, as well as his experiences managing multiple sites across the business and the attributes it takes to be successful in competition and business. Thanks for watching and enjoy. Right, guys. So this is the first ever episode. I'm here with Nick Vinson. Nick, do you want to just introduce yourself quickly, please?
Yeah, Nick Vinson, one of the managing partners over at Elite Performance Company, basically housed out of Colorado.
Nice. And what is it that you actually specifically do at your facility?
So we've been around for about 13 years, but and my role has morphed as we've gone on. But essentially, kind of a little bit of a Swiss Army knife with the business. Everything from training athletes to I have some adults that I work with, and then I do a lot of our external development and relationships growth manager, I guess I could call it. But yeah, I basically create a lot of our long-term and major partnerships.
When you say that you've sort of been, you're in this managing role, what were you previously, in those first at the start of those first 12 years? Is this a job role that you've always done, sort of?
Yeah, I think it's kind of been a job that I've always had to do, but as you start off, you've got a business of three people, and then you grow to five, and then seven, and you're constantly having to, change, and now you manage a couple people, while also training and improving yourself, but also now teaching them some of the things that took you a while to learn, trying to give them the shortcuts. So, it's as you grow, I mean, you got to continue to take different steps to help with that growth, I guess.
Interesting. Speak to me a little bit more about the helping, moving people into, helping them to train to grow. Is that from a business perspective or from fitness?
I think it's from both. I think when you're learning things for yourself, you gotta learn them the hard way, right?
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
just as human beings evolve over time, we give everybody behind us the shortcuts that we had to learn the hard way. So, whether that be sales tactics or relationship management, or even training trips and tricks, and yeah, I mean a whole onslaught of things. You start to learn the hard way, and you write that playbook for the next people behind you.
I noticed when I was first, looking into what it is that you guys do, and you specifically, that you also have some experience as an EMT, as a firefighter. You also have a degree in physics. You've almost got this such a wide range of experiences. Do you think that has shaped dramatically what it is that you can provide now, your service now?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I consider myself a person of faith, and I think that I feel like that my path was kind of chosen for me. I tried to get away from it several times, and some things were laid out in front of me, and I thought that was the direction I was supposed to go. I originally started doing my physics major when I was in college, because I wanted to actually be in the FBI. I thought I wanted to be, secret agent, James Bond, whatever. And it didn't take much time before I realized that is absolutely what I did not want to do. I kind of learned again the hard way that, following aimlessly following directions being able to pack up and move states at any given time, following protocol nonstop without thinking twice is just it wasn't my cup of tea. So yeah, and then I got in the fire service. Again, I was in a major car accident. Thought that was something that I wanted to do to help people, and actually was training on the side. Was a college athlete, and so I was like, I can do this. Was helping out my buddy Jim, who's the other owner with me, and it just started to take off, and we started to do super well. So then I had a choice to make between making the career path about firefighting or take the gym to the next level, and I chose the latter.
That's amazing. With the first gym that you ever started, was it Elite Performance or was there something previous that you were involved with?
So it was originally part of Don Beebe, who used to be the NFL's fastest man before Chris Johnson broke his record. We essentially worked for him, and he had a couple franchises that were in Denver, and then just pro athletes over time. I mean, names fade unless your name is Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or Michael Jordan. And he's, I mean, great guy, brilliant guy. Taught us a lot of his secrets, and it started to fade over time. So um, the facility that we were a part of was actually closing up shop, and so we bought the equipment from them, and then just renamed it to. It was Don Beebe's House of Speed, and so we renamed it to Elite Speed, just to kind of keep that synergy going. But yeah, that was probably about 13 years ago.
Functionally, was the type of people that you trained, athletes that you trained, were they the same from House of Speed as they are now, or were they slightly different, as in age range, or did you shift only now onto training, like NFL athlete or college athletes rather? Was there a time where you sort of targeted someone different?
I think the old model, which is the old D1 model, was more of a group training model, where you have time slots 4:30 to 5:30. You're gonna, do this session 6:30 to 7:30. You're gonna do high school. 7:30 to 8:30. You'll do adult boot camp, whatever. And it's a cost-effective way to get people into the training worlds and to teach them, the skill of training. And what we, realized pretty quick was that, this is a tutoring business. And what we're attempting to do is take people out of a classroom that they're already in, and we're putting them back into another classroom. And so we took that a little step further, and we started taking people out of those groups and started showing them some methods that were more specific to help them develop as athletes, or as people getting in the fitness world. And yeah, I mean, they just got better exponentially. So we kind of drifted away from that group training model more into the privatized segment.
Okay. And so the programs that you run at the moment, you still do have elements of group training, but just talk to me a little bit about what is it that you provide overall on a bigger scale.
Yeah. So I mean, we do still have some, we call it team training nowadays, but we still do train teams. We do it in a sense that's a little bit safer, so we won't do it in terms of like, max effort, lower loading, or max effort upper. You know, we'll put them into more of movement based, high rep, um, a little bit higher volume types of programming, but and to preserve that team session setting. Obviously, team camaraderie I think is important. Um, obviously going through things together as a team I think is very important for synergy. But yeah, we still have those sessions, but now we work in a one-on-one setting up to a 5-on-1 setting, and most of the time it's usually about 2 to 3-on-1. So you really get to know the individual. You get to know what they need, and you can focus on those individual needs, I think, as best you can.
What does it take to actually train someone up from, take them from high school and put them through a journey on a path to actually having a shot at, a major sports franchise in the US? What is that path? It must be intense. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot, and not to take anything away from what we do, but I would say that it actually to make that jump, it actually takes consistency. I would say that, the athletes that I have to hold back, the ones that I have to tell that I have to throttle down, are usually the ones that are more inclined to make those next steps versus the ones that I have to push. I have a good friend who says you can't want it more than they can, or you can't want it more than they do. And it's true as ever. I mean, I can usually pick out a kid pretty quick who's going to make it and who's not. And it's the kid that just is harassing me about getting in and getting work done.
Is that, would you say that's just a mindset that some people just are born with, just innately? Like, or is that something that they sort of develop over time? Is that something that you can influence yourself, and help to develop as well?
I think that we can help influence it, but I don't think you're born with it. I think that, if something happens from a family member or somebody that somebody idealizes, and they copy through osmosis. I mean, if you've got a dad who's or a mom who's super driven at her job, who's a go-getter, uses the calendar. Type A personalities typically produce type A personality kids. So there's obviously exceptions to the rule, but I think that people copy what they see.
I love that. I love that. With when it comes to actually being, you know, at the top of your game, do you consider, did you just train athletes, or do you? I noticed as well that you have started to move into first responders as well. Is that something that you're looking to branch out into, or is that something you've always looked to done?
No, I mean, I had the privilege of competing in the world the World Combat Challenge, the firefighter games, back when I was in the service, and my team was full of freaks. I mean, athletically gifted individuals, just super freaks, and we went on to win the world championship, which was pretty crazy. Um, and so it was always kind of a passion of mine. I mean, when they say it's the toughest 2 minutes in sports, they're not joking. I mean, that competition is something I've never felt in my life. And again, I was a college track athlete, so when it comes to dealing with pain, I mean, I've probably been through more than most. And that event was just unbelievable. I mean, those guys that compete in those games are freak athletes. It's pretty cool. So that got my attention, and obviously I knew what it took to do the job. I also know how hard it is to go in there and be in 500 degrees and perform at your best, and drag people upstairs and downstairs and save lives. So it takes a lot for sure.
Find it so interesting because it's not something that I ever considered as well, but there must be so much crossover between like the physical and mental attributes of, the people who are putting themselves in, specific scenarios like that, versus, athletes as well on, game day or track day.
Oh, I mean, 100%. I mean, when it comes to winning a race, you've got you, right? But when it comes to saving your own life, I mean, that's a whole different ballgame, right? So you can't have a bad day on that day. Otherwise, there won't be a tomorrow. So, yeah, I mean, the preparations, it's very necessary.
So you've got this program coming up for, specifically for first responders. For any gym owner who, you other outside of just your traditional private, semi-private group training, of course, you've got, NFL combine prep, you've got the first responder course that we've just discussed, and a bunch of other things. For any gym owner that is looking to try out something new, introduce something new into their gym, what's the sort of process that you would advise of, firstly finding out, get a gauge in what could work, testing and integrating that to make sure, you have something in place that's just right for that gym, and then just launching it.
Yeah, I mean, a good example for us is we have a return to performance program that was actually created and launched by my director of return to performance, Taylor Hebner, and we recognized a need that people will go through physical therapy and then they'll get cleared, or they'll be out of physical therapy sessions and then they're cleared to play a sport, but that's not real. I mean, they're not really ready to play a sport again, not yet. And so they're kind of in this limbo of like, okay, now what do I do? They've kind of fixed the leak in the ceiling, but they haven't quite mopped up the mess on the floor yet. And so, for us, we created this bridge. We saw a need there that was like, we're going to create a certification for trainers and staff to come in and identify what these weaknesses are that originally created some of these issues. And we're going to make that stronger. So now we can not only help them get back what they've lost through injury, but also prevent it from happening again. So we recognize that that was missing. I think that's pretty much the biggest part of it. And then my thing is we always teach our staff to go the extra mile. In a service industry, you want to create value, and so for us, everybody trains somebody, right? Like you can get training anywhere, but can you get that extra little bit, right? That extra added value. Is someone going to, follow up text you on your nutrition? Are they going to, make sure that their certifications are at the highest level so that they can, manage, IT band TFL dysfunction? It's just a lot of different things that can separate you. And I would say most of it's probably effort based.
Hiring the right people definitely sounds like a big part of it as well.
Very much so, yeah.
Finding those A players. Do you have anything when when you're hiring and recruiting? What are sort of the traits that you look for to make sure that you have, these top level people within your gym? Because of course you've got an incredible amount of work to do, not outside just running the organization, but you're running all you're running all the responsibilities of managing the relationships with stakeholders outside with I'm imagining all these high schools, colleges, all these other franchises as well. How do you ensure that you have the systems in place to, make sure you just procure the best talent to make sure that your mission is seen through?
At first we always were looking for great coaches, great technicians that had great relationship skills and had great sales ability. So essentially we were looking for unicorns. There's not very many of them, right? They don't exist very often. When they do exist, it's they usually are running a business or they're extremely successful on their own. And so for them to, want to go, work inside somebody else's world is just not possible. So, you know, over time, I kind of started to realize, you know what, we can teach people. I can teach people anatomy. I can teach people about movement. I can teach people about ground contact time, sprint mechanics, lifting mechanics, energy systems. We can teach all that, but I can't teach people how to be driven, right? Like once I get my hands on them, um, I can't motivate them more than they already have. And again, that goes kind of back to that whole inherited versus taught kind of thing, right? And I look for good, solid people that want to make a difference, but people that have a ton of passion. Whatever they choose themselves to do, may they work with all their might is a big thing that we look for. So I would say ultimately that's what you want to get your hands on.
I want to throw it back a little bit to when you first started out. I think it could be beneficial for gym owners just starting their own business. How different was it to, back 13 years ago to actually start up your business to compared to now in terms of like marketing, what you have to do? I can imagine it's completely shifted on the approach that you do to get and advertise your services to new people then versus now.
Yeah, I mean, this may not help your podcast, but people ask me all the time. They're like, "If you could go back 13 years and do it all over, would you?" And my answer is no, I wouldn't. Um, it was hard. It was miserable. I got lucky a lot of times. Um, it just somehow worked out. Sometimes it's mind blowing how it did. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, nobody knew who we were. Nobody knew what we had to offer or how we could help them. I mean, we had to literally paint a Picasso from scratch. And it's like, and again, we're still painting it, right? Like it's still going. And hopefully it never ends, but it's just, it's a lot of work. I mean, when you make a phone call and you're like, "Hey, this is Nick from Elite Speed," people are like, "Who?" It's mind blowing. I mean, we took a team of 200 volleyball girls and we built an entire business out of it. Just because when we got one, we worked hard to make that girl better. And then we got two, and then we got four, and then we got eight. And we just kept doing that. We just kept giving 110% of ourselves. So I think, and then you just chip away at marketing and chip away at brand and you chip away at, sales and, coaching contacts and good things start to happen. So yeah,
Building a brand from early, it took a while, but
takes a while.
you got there eventually, and like you said, you're still going. Would you say that majority of your success has been through referrals? Just you've done such a good job with a number of different people, and then that sort of just snowballs and snowballs.
100%. Yeah, for sure. And that was just always the goal, right? We always dreamed of someday you reach out to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm from Elite Speed," and they say, "Oh yeah, awesome! I heard you do good work." But that didn't come right away. I mean, that took a while.
So do you only have the one facility at the moment, or are you looking to sort of expand that?
We actually have three.
Three.
We have one in North Denver, which is considered Lowry, and that's in partnership with actually the third largest club sports team in the world. The Rapids youth organization, the Colorado Rapids, have 11,800 athletes in that club. So that's a pretty important partnership for us. It's a great program. They run things at a super high level. You ultimately have to just because of how big you are. And then we have one with the region's dominant orthopedist surgery group in UC Health and Stedman Hawkins. And, that started taking place about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I think 2 weeks ago. And creating a partnership with them was, everything. And we started that partnership right when COVID happened, right before COVID happened. So you can imagine how that went, being a partner with the healthcare system at the onset of a pandemic. But and then now we have the performance center, which is it's our membership gym. We attract a lot of athletes, but also a lot of adults that are very athletic. So it's very different looks in three different places, but yeah, it's been good.
What's the challenges of running those three separate facilities? Do you standardize a lot of what you do across each facility, or is there slight variations in what you can deliver?
Yeah, we have to standardize, right? We're always attempting to make a cheeseburger wherever you go. So we spend a ton of money on classrooms, on quality control. We do a lot of training of the trainers. We do that, 2 to 3 hours every single week. And so, creating a product that we're proud of and that we can control the quality of it is super important. But then also, a good buddy of mine is a business owner. He said, "You know what?" He goes, "You just can't give somebody a package of Legos and expect them to build it." He's like, "You can't even give them a package of Legos with a picture and expect them to build it. You have to give them step-by-step instructions on how to build this thing." And he's like, "And then it's going to get accomplished." Very few people could figure out how to build that Lego set without anything. And so, I take that into heart, and now we try and systemize and process, the entire thing. So it's a little bit easier every single time.
You give me a pack of Lego. I say I'm interested in joining. What's the process that I would go through for, when I first get in contact with you? What's the process within the first week or so? And then, within the first month, what would you have hoped I would have, achieved within that month
Are we talking about as like a staff member or
as an
as like an
athlete?
athlete? Oh gosh. I mean, you know what? We have to establish who you are, right? So we bring you in for a performance assessment, and we see exactly where you're at. And then I have to understand who you want to be. Um, I have to know who you are, who you want to be, and then I can now establish how we're going to get there. Um, and realistic expectations, I think, are everything. I think if you know somebody's going to only be able to work out 3 days a week, you have to make sure that fits. if they say 5 days a week, but really it's only three, there's a big difference there. So you really have to figure out people's shortcomings in terms of planning, but also, I mean, there's budget restrictions, there's physical limitations. What past injuries have you had? What do you currently have going on? Where do you lack in terms of strength or in terms of levers? So it's like, I mean, it's a whole process, and so we set this up for instance, as someone comes in, we sit down, we say, this is what we found is great with you. This is what we found that we can work on. And then we basically map out a plan. And it's always changing, always ongoing. So yeah, it's quite the ordeal.
Within a month, they could be up and running, hopefully. When it comes to actually ending this, I'll just say thank you for actually, that's the end of everything I have to say for now. But thank you for, spending your time and actually coming onto the show here. It was good to talk to you.
For sure. Hopefully this can lead to you creating, some good products out there. Helping more people. Be great.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And I will, I'll look forward to hearing it.
Speak to you soon.
Thank you.